But
Okay.
so anyway, we're recording now. But
Okay.
the oh my goodness, it's just going to drive me nuts. I'll probably email you as soon as I remember it, like middle of the night tonight. If you wake up in the morning and there's an email sitting there, that's what it is. But they have a curriculum where they're trying to where they identify the kids with aptitude for technology types of applications, and they track them into that, and they'll they do some work with Ivy Tech so that the kids will have Ivy Tech certificates um, as well as their high school degrees. And we're working on something like that with the Elkhart schools here. Um,
You know, I'm looking it up. I'm Googling it because it's gonna drive me nuts.
but the reason I said where are you, and I can Google it too while I'm talking, but the reason I asked about it is because there's a local business that uses the same model. So there's this guy, and he's actually an Ivy Tech graduate. His name's Ernie Rivas, and Ernie's just a really cool guy. I have him on my advisory board. I love him to death. Um, he's a veteran. He served in the Middle East. He originally is from San Diego and wound up here in northern Indiana, which is a little bit of a culture change for him, but he thinks a healthy one. And Ernie was working for he worked for the VA, and I think he was working for Social Security Administration when he decided to start his business. One of the things that he realized was that we have in Elkhart County, we had all of these high-paying factory jobs, and they were booming in 2017, 2018, and so on. And then in St. Joseph County, where South Bend is, we had um, we had a lot of people out of work who could do those jobs, but getting there was a problem. They either didn't have reliable transportation, or if they had to rely on public transportation to get over to Elkhart, it was a 2 hour plus trip each way. And so, they just couldn't get or hold down the manufacturing and warehousing jobs that were only 20, 25 miles away. And so Ernie started a business where his clients were the companies. The companies needed people, and to cover for their inability to staff at the levels of demand, they they were paying a lot of overtime. So and they so what they were able to do is Ernie bought buses, and they're the nice kinds of bus you might rent to go on a winery tour or something.
Okay.
He had drop points in South Bend, and he would go pick up people who wanted to work, and he would take them over to Elkhart, and he would take them home at the end of the day, and get them to work on time every day. The company paid him. There was a social benefit to what he did in getting employment for people and jobs that were paying 17, 18, 19 bucks an hour. And um, and the companies made out because they weren't paying time and a half, and their turnover numbers got better, and
Right.
all of those other costs that they avoided were part of it. And so, that's another example of what Porter was talking about. Every time you get a new client, you get a new bus, hire a new driver, and he was off to the races. So I see we have another one. I need to admit.
Good.
So we should have Michael joining us in a moment. And he's connecting to audio. And Michael, if you can hear me, you're muted.
How you doing?
Oh, good. Hey, how are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good.
Good. You're in class, and your classmate Gloria's here.
Hi, Gloria.
Hi, Michael.
So Gloria attends through the Kokomo campus, even though she lives apparently in rural Nebraska or something like that.
Carroll County.
Okay.
Michael, what campus is yours?
I'm South Bend.
Oh, okay. So you're local. We may have passed each other in a hallway at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm generally at Elkhart, but I've taught in South Bend several times as well. And of course, my boss, Violet Hawkins, the Dean of Business, is in South Bend. So I've always been over there pretty regularly until we got told we weren't allowed.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm surprised our paths haven't crossed before. Do you strictly take online courses?
Yes, I have. Well, um, back in 2012, I did some on-campus work, but since then, yeah, it's been all online.
Well, I'm glad to have you here tonight, and we can visit for a few minutes. Look, one of the things that I really wanted to do here is, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'll give you the benefit of something that I do on a regular basis. So
Okay.
let me do the screen share, and then let me um, pop up my whiteboard. I started doing this back when I was an adjunct, so I'm in my third year now as full time. And just to give you a little more background on me, I have over 40 years in industry of various kinds. 28 years of it was banking, operations, and technology. And then I owned a small business for a while. 2008 and 9 happened, and I was able to sell the business before it totally buried me. And then I worked for an online retailer, Better World Books, for 9 years, and so I got a lot of valuable experience there. I ran a tech team, but I worked real closely with the warehousing people and sales and every part of the company. So it was when I was at Better World Books that I started teaching as an adjunct. I had taught before, it was about 20 years ago, and that was business or banking law at Lake Michigan College when I lived in St. Joseph. And before that, I taught in the grad program at IIT in Chicago, where I had gotten my MBA, and I did some teaching there in the technology area. So that's sort of my background in this. But while I was working as an adjunct, I had all this experience. I'm 66 years old. This is like my last job that I intend to have, and I have a lot of things that I want to accomplish with it. But so I'm several years from retiring at this point. Mainly things I want to accomplish with our supply chain management program, because I'm responsible for that. But I started saying, okay, how am I really going to convey leadership principles? What have I learned over the course of a lifetime for leadership? So some of this is not new. This is the kind of thing that you might see in some people's books. Some of it is just what I've learned. And so I want to run through this for you, just so that you have an opportunity to see this, because I think this will give you some insight into how I think about leadership, and maybe that will help you as you go through this course. So,
Great.
And this won't take me very long, but I definitely want to do this. So let's start with what I started doing when I taught. And I'd been to principles of management class, and before every class, I would write this on the board, just like this. And early in the course, I'd always run through this like I'm going to do now, but throughout the course, I was constantly, with my little laser pointer, the red light pointer, I'd be making a point, and I'd always turn around and go, "This is trust," or "This is optimistic," and so we would constantly refer back to these through the course of of the academic year. So this is what went up there, and so when I talk about it, the first thing is the pillars, and that's this vision, context, trust part. And I think there are so many students of mine who, if I ask them what the pillars are today, they'll say vision, context, trust. It's emblazoned in their minds. And what this means is that, one is, you have to have a vision. As a leader, you have to have some kind of vision. It's kind of cool. Simon Sinek has a good video. In fact, I think I shared it this week, the Just Cause video. And so he talks about vision in terms of a just cause. But whatever you put it, the vision is, what are we trying to become? We might not be that now, but what are we trying to become? So, for example, if you're a customer service manager, you're saying, okay, well, we want to be a world-class customer service team. Even though there's only 4 of us, there is no reason, we may not have all the technology tools that a big call center has, but on the other hand, we can be great. And you can define great as we're responsive to our customers. We don't give them the runaround. We make decisions. Not everything has to run up to the boss. All those things that you can define that people like when they have a great customer service experience. So that's a vision. Now, I once had a student say to me, "Oh, look, I work for a supplier to the RV industry. And the two big players in our area are Thor and Forest River." And he said, every time one of those decides they want something and they want it now, we have to drop what we're doing and we have to, take care of what Forest River wants. And so he said to me, it's pretty hard to work towards a vision when you have that. If you think I bought that for a second, you are wrong. Um, what I said to him was, maybe the vision is that we have to be the production team that is so good at reorienting ourselves, to turn on a dime and reorient ourselves to an order. And then as soon as that's taken care of, to turn back and reorient ourselves to our normal production mode again. And we have to get really good at that because that's what the business requires of us. That's a vision.
I agree.
Okay, so those are that, and so you have to have that. The context part just flows from it. A lot of bosses, a lot of leaders have a vision, but every time they make a decision or start a new initiative, they need to put that in the context of the vision. It is, we're going to try something new because remember, we're trying to be a world-class customer service team, and this is going to move us a little closer to that. Because when you don't take the time to put everything in context, and it's constantly forgotten, when you don't take the time to do that, people look at management decisions as a random series of unrelated events. Have you ever had that feeling about a boss? Idea of the day.
Yeah.
And it may be
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
may be true, but it might not be true. It's just the boss didn't stop and tell you why we're doing this. Why does this make us closer to what we want to be?
You're just doing it.
Yeah, you're just doing it. And then the trust part is just like it sounds, that you have to be, you have to be honest, you have to have integrity, you have to do what you say you're going to do. Those are important, because if you don't have the trust of the people you're trying to lead, none of the rest matters. Scrap it right there. You have to be trustworthy. People have to believe you.
Do what you say what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. And be honest, be an honest person. We don't shortcut. I had a way back. This is 1980s stuff. And in the late 80s, I worked for the Aon Corporation, an insurance company, for a little while. And there was the executive VP, number 2 guy in the company, Bob Foy. And this is a huge insurance company. And I remember, I don't even remember who we were discussing, but I remember sitting in a meeting and hearing Bob say, "We don't do business with people like that." And it was an integrity issue that came up, and he just said, "Not at our place. We aren't that."
Right.
And it didn't matter if we were going to make money or not. We did that. Fast forward, when I lived in St. Joseph Bank, I worked for St. Joseph, I worked for Pinnacle Bank, and it was the same thing. If there was ever any doubt, the CEO was a guy named Dick Shanzi, the president was a guy named Arnie Weaver, 2 of the best people I've ever worked for. And if there was ever any doubt or any conflict between what was good for the bank and what was the right thing to do, we were doing the right thing. You want to get fired? Don't do the right thing.
Right.
And that was their mode. So that trust factor is really important as a matter of integrity. It's what makes something, it goes a long way to making a place great when you want to work there.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's huge for us as consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, we're going to move to the right here. So this is how you attract others to the cause. The first thing I want to say, and this is really a simple concept, is that leadership is something you do on purpose. You do it on purpose, you do it all the time. So if you go back to that vision, context, and trust, I never said anything about a natural born leader, because I don't believe it. I never said anything about having the big personality that fills the room. You can be reserved and be a great leader. You can have that big personality that fills the room, be real charismatic and be a great leader. It doesn't matter, as long as you lead intentionally, that these principles for leadership are things that you do on purpose all the time. And it's really important to do that. So you want to be a leader, you got to be on. You're on. Hey, that's the challenge of it. It's really hard to do 100% of the time, but that's what you have to try to do. The other point is that leaders are optimistic. They never see anything as a showstopper. It might be a problem, it might be an obstacle, but we're gonna beat it.
We're gonna be all right.
Yeah, we're gonna be all right. And
Yeah.
you know, when everything is just going to hell, you got the leader saying to their team, we have this, we can do this.
We've got this.
Confidently. Inside, you
Absolutely.
may be going, oh God, I don't know what we're gonna do. Outside, you're optimistic.
Mhm.
And people are attracted to that. That's how you get people to the cause, is they believe that you believe. And that's
Mhm.
really, really important. Okay,
Absolutely.
the next one is team development. And you may have seen this before in another class, maybe not. But there was this, going back to the 1960s, there is the work of a guy named Bruce Tuckman. And Tuckman was a behavioral psychologist whose special area of research was team development. And he identified these 4 stages of team development that every team has to navigate. And I always refer to it as universal truth that has the extra added benefit of rhyming. So
Yes.
the stages are forming, storming, norming, performing. And what this means is that that when you get a group of people together for the first time, or you introduce a lot of change to a group, that you're going to go through this forming stage where everybody's a little polite and a little bit wary, and they're not quite sure what the mission is. You know, you have this idea of a vision, but they're not quite sure, or they may not be quite bought in, and they're trying to want to learn more. But everybody's, you know, kind of, they're okay, you know, and then eventually you start to move into this storming stage where people start to say, well, what's my role? What do I want my role to be? They're going to throw that virtual elbow that says, hey, you stay in your lane. This is my job. You may disagree about, you know, very strongly about how things are to be done. And that's what the storming stage is all about. It's really, it can be very dysfunctional, and it's no place you want to get stuck. You absolutely don't want to get stuck there. But as you work through this, then you move into the norming stage, which is, okay, we're starting to get the hang of how we work together, and we're improving. And eventually, as you've gotten the hang of it, you become a high performing team. Now, the way a team's progress and output looks during that stage is it starts at some base level in forming, tends to drop in forming or in storming, and then starts rising in norming and really gets up to peak performance in performing. Now, there are specific leader behaviors with each one. You know, when your team is in performing, back off. Be working on what the next initiative is. Right? Let them do their thing. They're doing great.
Right.
But when they're in storming, you may be very, very hands-on. You're resolving conflicts. You're sitting people down. You're having discussions. You know, really heart-to-heart discussions with people. You're doing all of that, and so you develop this flexibility there. And I will be sharing in the course. I will be sharing some articles about this.
Good.
Now, one other thing I want to mention about this is that you hit that storming stage, especially first-time managers. They hit that and they think, oh my God, this is awful. This is not working at all. I'm terrible. No, that's not what's going on. It's normal. It happens all the time. If you're a sports fan, you see this with sports teams every year. Every year they go through it to some degree. All those years that the Patriots were winning NFL championships, or winning AFC, winning their division, etc. If you were
Sure.
going to beat them early, beat them in September, because they're still forming and storming. You might get into October and still have a chance to beat them, but otherwise, you probably weren't going to beat them in November and December because they had
Right.
gotten through this continuum. So you have that. So it's an important thing to understand, and it's important to understand what the appropriate leader behaviors are for each of these. next, I'm going to move over here, and these two actually kind of go together. But I like that little plan, do, check, act picture, which I usually would draw on the whiteboard. But it's two things. One, this is an Edwards Deming quote. Deming is the sort of the father of the quality management movement, going back to the 60s and 70s in Japan and bringing it forward. And Deming's great quote is, "In God we trust, all others bring data."
Love it.
Yeah. Now, why is that important? Is because we are data driven. We are judged by data, whether it's profitability, whether it's output, whether it's rework levels, scrap, all of those things that are data. And as a leader, you have to know what the data is, but you also have to orient your team to that data. So this sort of goes back to trust and transparency and those kinds of things, where you start sharing a lot of information with people. But your team needs to understand that these are the goals, these are the things that we have to achieve, this is how we're being evaluated. And that leads us into this plan, do, check, act cycle, which is something called the Deming cycle. Now, I've taught this process in 3 different types of classes. So I've taught it in stats class as a methodology for hypothesis testing. I have taught it in quality management as a process for continuous improvement. And I have taught it in management and leadership as an employee engagement technique. And here's how it works. The idea is that when you want to attempt an improvement, you know your data, you have your baseline data. So let's say we come up with an idea where we are going to have fewer mistakes. And so what you do is you will plan a test of the idea. You will do the test, you'll check your results, and you'll take action based on those results. Now, what you want to do, and what really companies who are really good at continuous improvement and quality management do, is they engage their employees. The best ideas come from the people who do the work every day.
Absolutely.
So you trust people to give you the idea. Now, if you're in an operations area, you have to have standard operating procedures. I can't say, Michael, you do it your way. Gloria, you do it your way. I'll do it my way. We're going to have our quality and our output and our productivity are going to be all over the place.
Right.
So you have to have a standard operating procedure. But we also want Gloria and Michael to give me good ideas.
Right.
And we want you to feel some ownership. Go ahead, Michael.
No, you're absolutely right, because who better to get that input from than those who are on the ground floor operating the machinery, that seeing how the process works. They would know best how to adjust, make adjustments if needed, and add on to, improve
Make it
production.
Better. Yeah. And they know what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And in so many places, they don't feel like they have the right to speak up about it. It's like, leave your brains out in the car and just do what I tell you.
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want. You want to engage people. So you bring those ideas in. You say, give me the next idea. And you are constantly testing things. Now, the other beauty of this is not only do you engage your employees and give them some input over how their work is done so they can take real pride of workmanship in it, but you also are developing the habit of testing and implementing change. And so when, everybody talks about how hard it is to manage the change process, when your team is in this habit of doing it on a item by item level, they kind of handle the big changes better too.
Sure.
Which is pretty cool. But so what you're doing is, not every idea is going to be good. So you test an idea. What do you do when it's good? Well, this is, and again, students who've had me in the classroom know this because they've repeated it so many times, is you say, hooray for us, pizza for everybody, we're celebrating, and you implement the idea. And then you go on to the next idea. What do you do when you get an idea that doesn't work? hooray for us, pizza for everybody. We learned something and we did not implement something that doesn't work.
Now let's move on. Yeah.
And we go on to the next one. Because if I look at Michael and I say, well, Michael, that was a dumb idea. That didn't work. Is
Then
he gonna
Michael
give me
won't
another
bring
one?
any more ideas.
Yeah, I just shut him down. I want his next idea. And so we celebrate the learning as much as we celebrate the successes.
Absolutely.
And that's part of being, again, that's part of being a great leader.
That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
And so then we go on to the last piece, and that is about servant leadership. And so I think I included the video in the announcement, and that's always my big takeaway. There's a lot of good stuff in that Warren Bennis video, but the one where he talks about Shakespeare, and so what that's about is, I think it's either in Henry IV or Henry V. I'm not a Shakespeare expert by any stretch of
Not
it.
either.
Good, thank you, because then I can just take total liberty with this.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
But you have young Prince Hal, who is going to be the next king of England, and he is hanging out with this guy Falstaff. Now Falstaff is he's older, he's a partier, he's the guy who's always lived off the kindness of strangers. Basically, he's a ne'er do well. If you're old enough to remember Popeye the Sailor Man, he's wimpy. Always looking for a hamburger. I'm glad you play
on
hamburger today.
Yeah.
So that's Falstaff, and as you can imagine, the people at the castle are not real thrilled about this relationship, and yet the sage advice that Prince Hal got from Falstaff is that if you want to lead people, you have to be able to enter their world.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm really speaking to here is relatability. That this is, look, I'm a 66-year-old white man. I'm not going to go start talking street to somebody on the production line to be, just
Right.
to be relatable. No, you have to be genuine. You have to be yourself, but you have to be approachable. You have to be real. You have to be generally interested in and concerned about people. And so that's what enter their world really means is, and can you flex so that you are, you can go talk to the lowest level clerical worker or production line person, as well as can you flex up to the CEO, and can you have productive and enjoyable conversations with all and everybody in between. And I think that's something worth learning to do.
Adaptability.
Yeah,
Yes.
it really is. Flexibility and adaptability.
Yeah.
So that's one. The second one here is leaders eat last. Did either of you serve in the military?
My son is, but not me.
Okay, your son would get this one. He would definitely get this one. It's the title of a Simon Sinek book, and it's about servant leadership. In the military, it would be officers eat last. But when you're out in the field, whether it's for exercises or it's for real, when it's time to eat, when it's time to feed the troops, the officers eat last. And it's just something that's always done to indicate that the priority is the people, the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Feeding the ranks.
Yeah, and until they're taken care of, we don't take care of the officers.
Kind of like moms.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 What can I say? I'm a mom of four. I had to throw that in there.
Well, but as a mom, are you all the things you do for your children things that make you somehow win? No.
Well, depends on the situation.
Yeah.
No, I do everything I do is for the benefit of them.
Yeah, except for the one notion that I do want them to be really happy with me, so that when they pick out my nursing home, it's a good choice.
Right. I've already
Absolutely.
talked to mine about that. For when they pick my nice little nursing home, I want to know that I'm good.
So there's one more that I have, and that's this one. That just came up. It was Ethan Zagor, who is our in charge. He's in charge of a number of things, including student life, recruiting, advising, and so on at our campus. And Ethan's a really good guy. And we had him, I'm the advisor for our chapter of the National Society of Leadership and Success. And Ethan was our honored speaker at our induction ceremony in December. And one of the things he said is always run to the fire. Don't hide from it. Now, what does that mean? I think, it's interesting that we had, Meg Whitman, highly successful businesswoman, and then followed by Carly Fiorina, who also was a very successful businesswoman. And both of them ran for government offices, Whitman for governor of California and Fiorina for the Republican nomination for president. So they're both pretty high-powered people with big personalities of their own.
Oh, yes.
But I like Fiorina's statement here. Run towards the problems, work to solve them. Don't fixate on getting promoted. Focus your attention on doing great at your current job. And I think that's really what it means is, the problems are mine. I want them. I don't want them to happen, but I want to own them when they happen. And
Right.
so many
Absolutely.
people just try and duck them.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the summary. That's that, we go back to my classroom whiteboard, and that's what I cover with leadership. And, if I could just build my own course, Principles of Leadership, we would be taking deep dives into all of these. And yet I don't think there's anything in the course that you're taking right now. I don't think there's anything that offends any of this stuff. So any questions about that?
Not really. I like it. I mean,
No, I think it's great. Right on point. Sorry.
yeah, definitely right on point. I'm looking forward to learning more. I enjoyed my first Principles of Leadership class. The intro to leadership. I enjoyed that actually quite a bit.
Okay, good.
So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, leadership just fascinates me to no end. I absolutely find it to be, the older I've gotten, the more intrigued I've been by leaders and what they have to say and what makes people great and what makes people poor. As you can imagine, I'm thoroughly appalled by political leadership in recent years.
Sure.
And I'm not just speaking of the last 4. I'm speaking of, for a long time.
So am I.
And I'd really like, something to come along there. Are there questions about the course that I can answer for you?
I really don't have any concerning the course. The course, it's been pretty easy to navigate it, and the material's been good. So, I mean,
Pretty straightforward.
yeah.
All right, and first assignments were due yesterday. So over the next couple of days, I'll be getting in and doing grading. I do my best to give you a pretty good dose of quality feedback.
Sure.
And a lot of what you're going to get is the same kinds of things that we do here. So there's always there's always responding to your individual work that you submit, but there's always a part in every section that if we were in the classroom, I would be covering. And so I want to make sure that I can work that in and tie it to your assignments as well. So that's what you can expect from me, is that you probably, in fact, you may get, just in terms of sheer volume, you can judge the quality for yourself, but in terms of sheer volume, you might get more from me than you have ever gotten in an online course before.
I like that though.
Yeah, that's good. That helps point you in the right direction. If you're slightly off on something, it's always good to get feedback.
Yeah, and from my standpoint, the way I teach in the classroom is that I try not to cover exactly what's in the book or the chapter material, whatever that may be, because you can read that.
Yes.
You can discuss, you can ask questions about it, but you don't need me to read it back to you again. So
I agree.
what I try to do in the classroom is to bring related material, but additional material.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
so I do my best to take that approach with an online course too. so that you get something additional. And that's part of why you get, a weekly video. I know you don't have a lot of time to be watching long videos, so I try and keep them to 5 minutes or less. But I have a pretty good collection by now. If you were to see my Google Drive folder full of materials, it just keeps growing.
But I can appreciate that, though. I don't want to just sit and listen to you read to me out of the textbook, because like you said, I can read that on my own.
Yep.
I appreciate the additional information that we're going to get out of you from your experience.
Now, the only thing you miss by not having me in the classroom is that I'm never above a little bit of nonsense every once in a while too. So,
I like nonsense now and again too. I did raise boys, so.
yeah, I do a lot of movie quotes and movie clips and things like that. And it always has to have a point, but sometimes it's funny stuff too.
Sure.
So we talk about that. And I like some classroom exercises. One of my favorites, and I'll definitely share the video for this one with the group, is there's one called the Marshmallow Challenge. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's like my favorite first day of class activity. And the way it works is you get 20 sticks of spaghetti, uncooked, of course, some tape. In the purest sense, you get some string, but I don't keep string in my office drawer, so I don't use that. But 20 sticks of spaghetti, some tape, and a marshmallow. And the mission is you get teams of 4 or 3, and it's to build the tallest freestanding structure.
Oh my.
The catch is that the topmost part has to be the marshmallow.
Okay.
Okay, you can team up.
And you have to have teams.
Well, sure.
And of course, I'll have some chocolate bars or something for the winning team, and then I just let them go. Now, there's a lot of, and then we sit down and we do some feedback. So of course you have whoever won, and sometimes it doesn't take much to win because these things fall down. But but you also then we debrief about the behavior. Did somebody take charge?
Mm-hmm.
And become the boss? Did somebody just lay back? I had one class where one of the students just sat there and laughed at everybody else. She didn't do anything. She just laughed at him.
Wow.
It was pretty funny to see, because every time they tried something, it didn't work, and she'd just laugh at them.
So she was the comic relief for the team.
She was the comic relief.
Yeah.
Some teams collaborated better than others, and the video sort of explains what the results are. And I'm not going to tell you which groups tended to do better than others, but I will tell you that college business students or recent graduates of business schools was not a high performing bunch.
I look forward to seeing that video.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to put it up there as a just for fun later this week. I don't want to overwhelm people and stuff, but it's really good. Yeah, remind me if I don't do it. Say, hey, where's the marshmallow video?
I will. Right, Michael? We'll do that, won't we?
Most definitely.
Because now you got us.
I want to see that.
Definitely.
No, I did have one problem with the personal trait leadership post.
Mm-hmm.
I did the thing and I did my post and I had long post about it. And when I went to send it, I thought it went. Then when I go back to it, there was nothing there.
Oh, so you had to write the whole thing again.
I had to write the whole thing again. I was like, oh.
All right, here's my recommendation for that.
Uh-huh.
If you use, whether you use Google Drive or Microsoft Word or whatever, type it there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Type it there. Then you can copy and paste it in, but that way you won't lose it. I've had that happen to students before. And
Michael, I do that
sorry,
every time.
I'm sorry that I didn't think to put that up as an announcement.
Okay.
I do that every time.
Yeah.
So you can also watch any spelling or grammatical. I can't even talk tonight. I've been on these things all day. Grammatical errors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when you post it, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And feel free, take a look at the the Google Drive folder that I shared in the syllabus.
Mhm.
There is a document in there about writing for business that I created, because usually in the classroom I do a business writing segment, and so the first time I taught an online course, I thought, well, how am I going to teach this not in the classroom? And what I came up with is the document that you see there, and the document is meant to be both instruction and an example of the instruction.
Okay.
So, and that's a perfectly valid writing style for any of my classes. You know, they may tell you what academic writing is supposed to look like. I am fine with business writing. The real key principle for business writing is that most people in the business world get more email per day than they can handle.
Mhm.
So if you make yours easy to read, people will read it. And
Right.
there's two types of readers in the business world, as far as I'm concerned. Most are skimmers. So
Mhm.
they're going to look through the document and they're going to want to find the part that's relevant to me and read that, and I'll skim the rest.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so by using things like section headings and short paragraphs and tables and bulleted lists and things like that,
I like doing that.
that works for the skimmers.
Right.
The others are nitpickers, and they just want to take apart anything you write. And it's the cool news is that you write the same for nitpickers that you do for skimmers. You don't give them as much to pick.
Mhm.
Right, there you go. There you go.
Right.
Keep it brief and to the point.
Yeah.
So, you know, active voice, all of those kinds of things, shorter sentences. I target a 7th grade reading level, to be honest with you, in the business world. And it's not because people can't read at a higher level, because of course they can. It's because it's easier to read.
Easy to read, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to struggle a little bit with that probably, because this is what I do for a living is correct, kids' writings. So yeah,
Well,
I'll have to work
I'll
on
be
that a little
interested.
bit.
Take a look at the document, give me some feedback, and tell me where I'm full of it, and tell me where you think that's spot on. Because if you're correcting writing all the time, you're already doing it.
Well, here's what you'll learn about me. Don't ask if you don't want to know the answer.
I always want to know if you can help me be better at what I do. I am all ears.
Oh, well, I tell you what, I will take a look at it. It's just fun for me. My kids, I drive them crazy, and they're adults. They're
Well,
adults.
But that's your job. You know,
Well,
mine are adults too. Yeah, that's your job. It's a lifelong pursuit, driving our kids crazy.
and you know what? And I love every bit of it. I raised 3 boys, and then we adopted a teenage girl from my high school a couple of years ago, and she's now at Ball State. And I tell you what, she's very leery when she comes to me. She's like, can you look at this? And she hands me her laptop. Can you look at this? Can you tell me? And she's like,
I don't really want to know, but I need to know.
right. That's the gist of it. Doesn't really want to know, but needs to.
Yeah, something we have in common. I'm an adoptive parent too.
Are you?
Yeah.
I finally got a girl. It's the only way I could get a girl.
That's what we did. Is my son's my biological son. My daughter. Yeah, we got to choose. We want a girl.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's what we tell her. We chose you, and you're so much prettier than the boys. We tell her.
well, and what I always the way I always say it with my daughter is, you're born to be my daughter.
Yeah.
However else it worked. She arrived at 4.5 months, and I thought, you're born to be our daughter. However you got here is not really relevant.
Right. I've known this gal for years, watching her in the school system, but we didn't actually adopt her till she was 16. And it's been a transition. She's had a rough life, so it's been a transition. But you know what? It is probably the best thing we've ever done. She has brought as much to us
Oh yeah.
that we have brought to her. I mean,
And on a whole new understanding of what others' lives can be like.
Yeah, our boys they dote on her. Our boys' wives dote on her. They're just she's a part of us, and just in a nice little. I love my kids thingy is she bought me for Christmas. She ordered, it's an acrylic heart and it's got like puzzle pieces cut out. And it says, Dad, Mom, Timmy, Stephen, Brian, Chrissy. And in the middle, it says, together we make a family.
Nice.
This mama cried right as soon as I opened it.
I
I
bet you
just,
still do once in a while over that.
yeah, because I'm getting teared up now. So we'll stop talking about that. But yeah, you know how it is when you adopt, they're made to be yours.
Yeah.
Made just for you. So anyways, hi, Michael.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here because
Sure.
I have an NSLS board meeting in 8 minutes. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
on to the next one. Started with 8 o'clock class, gonna finish probably about 9:15 tonight.
Okay, you have a
Have fun
great
with
night.
that.
All right, everybody.
All
have a
right. We'll
good
be
evening.
seeing you guys.
Bye.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.